Hello and welcome to another mental health literacy class. What we're going to look at in this lesson is a quick review of some of the treatment options we've looked at, what recovery looks like, when you know someone should be seeking help, and how we can support these people. So, of course, note the content of our mental health literacy lessons are not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. And you should always seek the immediate or timely advice of your doctor or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you have regarding this. So let's get started. Through looking at mental disorders and mental illnesses we've learned that mental disorders are treatable and that recovery is possible. We know that people who have a mental illness have a brain disorder that can be treated. We know that they're no different than anyone else. We know that the sooner a proper treatment can be provided, the better the chance of a good outcome. And we know that recovery is possible. And of course, we know that you can help. Through looking at a variety of mental disorders and mental illnesses, we know that all treatments work by changing the way the brain functions and by impacting our brain circuits. We know that the treatments for mental illnesses tend to fall into two groups. There are psychological and physical treatments. So psychological are the different types of therapy and counseling that we've looked at, and physical would involve medication. All right, so we know that treatment for mental disorders help control the signs and symptoms of the illness, help improve functioning at school or work or home or in relationships. They help prevent the illness from returning, and they help improve overall health and well-being. Now, in terms of illnesses returning, sometimes mental illnesses, just like physical illnesses, are always kind of there in the background and we keep them under control. Recovery, what does it look like? It's an ongoing, slow process, and again, it's different for each person, and it's achieved when the person is doing what they can and want to do, even though they may still have the illness. So for most of us, there are times when we might feel off, but these kind of feelings can become a problem if they continue for a long time. Longer than a week or two is too long. These signs may be visible to others, like changes in behavior, or they might be invisible, like thoughts and feelings. Mental health challenges show up differently in each person and with the different disorders and illnesses. Here is a short video on 10 common warning signs of a mental health condition in teens and young adults specifically. Let's take a look now.
Mental health conditions are more common than you may think. 1 in 5 youth or young adults lives with a mental health condition. Do you know the warning signs? Like feeling sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks. Severe mood swings that cause problems in relationships. Intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. Sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. Or seriously trying to harm or kill oneself, or making plans to do so. Not eating, throwing up, or using laxatives to lose weight. Significant weight loss or weight gain. Severe, out-of-control risk-taking behavior that can cause harm to self or others. Repeated use of drugs or alcohol. Drastic changes in behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. Or extreme difficulty concentrating or staying still. If you see these signs in yourself or a friend, tell a trusted adult. The first step to getting help is to say it out loud.
It's important to remember that people are more than just these signs of a possible mental health challenge, and everyone should be treated with respect. So now we know the signs of when someone should seek help, but how does one go about seeking this help? If you notice that a friend or family member might need support, a first step might be reaching out to them to start a conversation. If you feel comfortable, connect with them to ask them how they're doing and try to be specific about what's making you concerned. You could say some of these statements here. You seem distant lately. How are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help? It looked like you're having some trouble yesterday. Is there something going on? Do you want to talk about it? Even if your friend or family member doesn't want to talk, knowing that you care can help make them feel less alone and isolated. If your friend or family member shares what's happening for them, you can validate their experience by showing them you understand how difficult things may be for them. You could say, I'm sorry, that really sucks. Do you want to talk about it? That sounds like a lot to deal with. Try to avoid comments that sound judgmental or sound as if you think they can control how they think or feel, or that their experience isn't such a big deal. So you do not want to say, everyone feels this way sometimes, or I felt like this before, you'll get over it soon. It's usually a good idea to suggest that the person also talk to someone else about their concerns. It's good for them and good for you too, because it means you're not the only person who's looking out for them. If your friend or family member is uncomfortable reaching out like this, you can offer to be there with them or to connect to someone for them. So you can start by showing you care about them, and you could say, it sounds like things may be getting more serious for you lately. I'm worried about you. I haven't seen you a lot lately. I'm worried about something going on. Then you might suggest some possible sources of help by saying, have you talked to anyone else about help? Do you want to talk to someone for support? Maybe this isn't an option that your friend or family member is ready for now. In this situation, you can reach out on their behalf. If their behaviors start to become more alarming, they may need more immediate support, like big changes in their mood, a major change in their regular activities, increased use of any substances, or talk about suicide or self-harm. So if your friend or family member is talking about self-harm or suicide, they need help now. You may be able to get them to a source of help if they agree to go with you and if you're comfortable doing this. But even if they don't agree, it's important to respond with their safety in mind. You could say, I'm really worried about your safety right now. I think we should go to the emergency department. Or can we call someone to let them know this is happening? Like a parent or aunt or uncle or grandparent. Maybe they can come with us, or maybe you prefer that they go to the hospital with you instead. You can also reach out to the school counselors in this kind of situation. Now, if your friend or family member doesn't want to go with you or call anybody, you can offer to call 911 with them. If you're concerned about their safety and they refuse any help from you, you should tell a trusted adult and call 911. Never, ever keep self-harm or suicidal thoughts a secret, even if they ask you to. At the beginning of our series on mental health literacy, we set some norms in terms of being able to grapple with these concepts in a safe space. We also talked about stigma, which is the prejudice that can make people feel like sharing mental health struggles will result in people being unkind, discriminatory, or bullying. Feeling like it's okay to talk about these things is so important. The power of talk can be profound. Take a look.
For me, when I was first going through this, I was terrified.
My family wasn't open to talking about anything. I kind of grew up in a family that's like, we don't talk about our problems.
A lot of the time, especially when it comes to parents sometimes, they've had all these years to overhear and learn these stigmas and these whole concepts and ideas of what it actually means to have a mental health or a mental illness.
Right now, I think it's important to speak up about mental illness, especially for younger people. Like, I might have wanted to hear some things. I might have needed a little bit of inspiration when I was first experiencing my symptoms.
It was really hard for me to kind of ask people for help, but when I realized that I needed it.
The conversation hasn't really started in relation to psychotic illnesses, and I think that people definitely need to talk about it more.
There is a stigma attached to it. So talking about it is very important because it will remove the stigmas and it'll be easier for people to recover from it.
Talking has really been almost like a platform for healing in a way, because I don't really think that you can get better if you're not willing to really face that problem and talk about it.
Talking is really important, just to check in with others and get out of your own head.
Somebody will be struggling and they won't know what's going on with them, and they'll feel ashamed for feeling the way that they feel, and I feel like you shouldn't feel guilty or ashamed of something you don't necessarily have control over.
There has to be an environment where people feel safe to talk about it, and if people are going to call you names or call you crazy, then you're probably not going to talk about it. So it requires a lot of courage, but also it requires the right kind of environment.
You know some signs that may indicate a mental health problem or disorder. You've possibly had some conversations about this. The next step is knowing how and where to seek help. So seeking help is done in several ways. So you can speak to someone you trust about your feelings and experiences. That's a big first step. Once a problem is recognized, you need to seek help and find support. So who can you turn to? Well, our high schools have youth care workers and counselors that can connect you with services and support. They know all the places in the community and who can help you for specific problems. They're a great source. Of course, sometimes things happen on a weekend or during a break, so you need to know where else to go. So you can go to a doctor, a family doctor, or a walk-in clinic. You can go to a place like Chilliwack Youth Health Services. They have drop-in services and virtual and face-to-face medical and counseling services there. And they're confidential and free, so reach out. The Kids Help Phone, they have a phone number and a website, is full of resources, and they will message with you. You can figure out what the next steps are. So that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year. So recovery looks different for everyone, and it's okay to move forward at your own pace, but you need to reach out, or you need to help others reach out. All right, so we're going to go through some what-if scenarios. So for this activity, your teacher will ask you to go into groups of 2 to 4 students, or they might want to have a class discussion, and you'll be engaging in some problem-solving scenarios where you talk about possible actions you can take in a range of situations involving young people in distress. Okay, so the first scenario here is there's a situation at school that's really stressing you out. And every day when you wake up, you remember this situation and you start to feel sick. You wish you could just stay home. What should you do? What should you say or suggest? What should happen next? I'll pause the video while you talk about this scenario. The next scenario, your friend isn't acting like their old self. They seem really down and have been doing strange things like giving their favorite things away. They recently told you that they thought people they knew would be better off without them around, and that they thought about killing themselves. After they tell you, they ask you not to tell anyone else what they've said. So what should you do? What should you say or suggest? What should happen next? Let's talk about this scenario while the video is paused. All right, scenario 3, a kid in your class gets completely ignored and occasionally teased and even bullied. No one will ever be seen talking to this person. The teachers don't seem to notice, and no one does anything to this kid when the teachers are around. What should you do? What should you say or suggest? What should happen next? Scenario 4, your friend has a parent with a mental illness. From time to time, when the parent isn't doing well, your friend has to do everything at home. None of your other friends know about the situation. Your friend doesn't even know that you know, but your mom found out about it through a neighbor. What should you do? What should you say or suggest? What should happen next? Okay, next scenario. A friend has been on a diet, is getting really skinny, and never seems to eat. They think they're really fat and will not wear shorts or a bathing suit. What should you do? What should you say or suggest, and what should happen next? Let's pause the video. Okay, so your teacher will now facilitate a class discussion around these questions. So the video can again be paused while you have a great discussion on these scenarios. Here's an optional class challenge your teacher may consider, where you find some interesting websites, phone numbers, or emails for mental health support services in Chilliwack and BC. You can save them on your phone, share them with your classmates, or your teacher may ask you to put them on a whiteboard in your classroom. Pause the video to do that if your teacher chooses. Now, I know you're going to be heartbroken about this, but there's no formal assignment to submit this week. You've completed the activities as a class and hopefully had some really meaningful discussion around it. And that's it for me this week. Have a great week.